Welcome to the S.T.A.R Podcast.
Whoa. S.T.A.R Podcast.
Welcome to the S.T.A.R Podcast, hosted by Nat. Each week, we share tips and stories from safety, trucking, and recruitment, and everything in between. Listen now.
Welcome back to the S.T.A.R Podcast. Today's episode is a powerful one. We're joined by Eugene from Threads of Life, an organization dedicated to supporting families affected by workplace tragedy and promoting a culture of prevention across Canada. Eugene brings a deeply personal perspective to the conversation, sharing insights into the lasting impact of workplace accidents. Through advocacy, education, and community, Threads of Life is helping to ensure that no family has to experience these tragedies alone. This is more than a conversation about safety. It's about people, purpose, and why the work they do every day truly matters. Make sure to listen to the end where Eugene shares how you can easily get involved through participation, volunteering, awareness, or donations. Listen now. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time, and I think this will be a really great episode, something that kind of aligns with what we're doing, because we're talking about safety, transportation, recruitment, but safety is the big piece, and I think who better to talk about that than you at Threads of Life. I'm excited to chat with you, so thank you very much for joining.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I was hoping to get started if you could just introduce yourself and share a little bit about yourself, what has brought you to this point, some kind of career highlights, and then we'll get into talking more about Threads of Life.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So I guess first and foremost, my name is Eugene Gutierrez. I am the executive director at Threads of Life. We are a national charity that supports families and workers affected by workplace tragedies. And I stepped into this role in early 2025. So last year, following our co-founder, Shirley Hickman. My path, it's a bit of a dual track journey. So a little bit about me. So I grew up in Marathon. It's a small mining town in Northern Ontario. Spent the bulk of my career in the corporate creative world. So I worked as a creative director, an account executive, transitioned, became an experienced design strategist, supporting brands like Tim Hortons, RBC, Cineplex, LCBO, just to name a few. And I loved the work. It was great. And but my life changed in a very big way in 2017. And so in 2017, my father, Bot Gutierrez, he was a veteran mining surveyor of 30 years. And during a routine shift, he was killed in an underground incident. And so suddenly, in that moment, I wasn't just a creative professional anymore. I was a grieving son, trying to navigate with my family a maze of investigations, WSIB claims, seeing stories of my father's death in the media. So needless to say, it's like, how do you prepare for that? You can't. It was one of those things where, yes, I had support, close family members, close friends, they were there and offered help, and really grateful for that. But really at the end of the day, not really the same. I didn't really feel like I had anyone that understood that type of weight, that type of, dealing with that kind of pain and frustration and, uncertainty and all that type of stuff. So that's when I found Threads of Life. So I had a WSIB case manager refer me to them because I had asked, hey, I need some support here because, I tried support through my EAP program, looked into all sorts of different support mechanisms, and I just felt like nothing really hit the nail on the head. And so, I was connected with Threads of Life. I was paired with a peer or another person that frankly lived through a similar tragedy like my own, and that experience really changed my life all over again. And so through that experience, I started off as a member of the Threads of Life community, as someone that was receiving support from them. As I got to learn more about the organization, I just felt their mission resonated with me. I wanted to ensure that no one else experienced what me and my family went through. And so I became a volunteer. I wore a lot of different hats, did a lot of different roles, supporting the organization. And in that journey, I just realized in that moment that, you know what, like I have all these skills that came from my professional life that I wanted an opportunity to give back in a bigger way. And so when the opportunity arose in 2024 to apply for this executive director position, because my predecessor had announced her retirement, I figured it's either now or never. Throw my hat in the ring. I honestly did not have any other expectations other than like, I am happy to serve in any capacity, but at the very least, I'm going to put all my skills on the table so that you know what I'm capable of.
Right.
Here you go. Right. If I'm your guy, I'm your guy. If not, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I believe in the work that they do. And so needless to say, I got the call December of 2024 saying, hey, you're the guy. I might have had a holy insert swear word there, holy moment. And then the rest is history. And so now I'm in a position where I get to apply everything I learned in the corporate world. And that's the thing. It's like, I worked in the for-profit sector for like the majority of my career, and to like make this pivot into the nonprofit charity sector, it's one of those things where everything I did in my former life has a place in the work that I'm doing, which is great.
Yes.
But I get to apply it in a way that it helps keep families and workers safe and support those that, need the support services from our charity organization. So I know that was a lot, but that's kind of like, that would be like, that's the Coles Notes in terms of, who I am, how did I come here, my background, and the work that I get to do now.
No, that's so amazing. First of all, I'm so sorry to hear about your father. That I couldn't imagine that would be a terrible tragedy. So, I mean, you turned that, and then you're kind of putting all of that back into the organization, which I think's wonderful, and kind of maybe even a tribute to your father as well. So I think that's amazing, the work that you're doing. So.
Oh, no, for sure. And thank you for saying so. I mean, for me, yes, there's the, there's an altruistic, being able to be a part of something that's much larger than myself and be able to give back and be able to serve and support others. I mean, that fills my bucket. That gives me great meaning. But yeah, the other part of the equation is that it allows me to ensure that the loss of my dad was not in vain. And really that was the impetus for me to volunteer, because, for something as senseless as someone dying on the job that could have been prevented, it's like, how do I assign meaning to that? Because otherwise it just, I could not move on in a manner that would be conducive to my healing if I didn't find a way to kind of honor his life and be able to channel it to something positive, as ugly as that tragedy was.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, firsthand now, when you're working with people, what they've gone through, like you can really connect with those people, I'm sure, on a different level than people who haven't went through that. So, wow.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It definitely helps to be able to, when I'm connecting with new family members coming into our community or impacted workers, that, having that, I mean, it's unfortunate, but having that ability to relate on that level, it does make a big difference for sure.
Can you share a little bit more specifically about Threads of Life? Like you mentioned a bit about how you were connected with a worker, but can you talk a little bit about, I guess, the process and how you work with different individuals and how that works?
Yes, no, certainly. Yeah. So just to kind of, a little bit of a, let's go back in time, so to speak. So Threads of Life was founded in 2003, well over 20 years now, back in 2003, to fill a massive gap in the system. And so what do I mean by that? Well, if you were to go back in time around to 2003, if a tragedy happened at work, there really wasn't any emotional or legal support specifically for families that were going through that experience, right? It was kind of like, so if I reflect on what I went through at that time, there's very little resources in terms of like, what do I do next? How do I cope with all this? Who can I talk to? There wasn't, there was no support group, there was no hotline that could be called or anything like that. And so back at that time, a handful of families had gotten together and through their common experiences had all agreed that this is definitely a need. God forbid if something happened, there's a definite need. So all that to say, Threads of Life was incepted to help fill that gap. And so Threads of Life, as I mentioned, is a national charity organization that supports any Canadian that is dealing with the aftermath of a workplace tragedy. So what does that mean? So whether that's a workplace fatality, whether that's a life-altering injury, or an occupational disease. Those are Canadians that we serve and support. Presently, right now, we serve over 4,000 members, and the unfortunate reality is that there are likely more individuals out there that could benefit from our programs and services, but don't yet know who we are. So again, being able to talk about who we are, what we do on channels such as this podcast goes a long way. At Threads of Life, our core philosophy is such that no one should have to navigate this new normal alone. We know how difficult it is. I mean, I know how difficult it is firsthand to deal with the uncertainties and the frustrations and the emotional and mental toll that a workplace tragedy brings about. And so at Threads of Life, we offer things like peer support. We offer healing forums and resources. And this is the important part, that we offer that at no cost to the families. So if you're someone that there is no barrier for preventing that from happening. And so we're here to help people move through, the physical and emotional isolation that so often follows these events. Because it is quite a lonely place when those tragedies should happen. And so that's fundamentally that's how we function, that's how we work. We are partnered with a number of various entities that they do a great job in helping to get the word out about who we are. So, whether that's through worker compensation boards, whether that's through various health and safety associations, but then also there's just word of mouth. And then, like I said, channels such as podcasts and what have you, that being able to get the word out there so that way when, if an unfortunate tragedy should happen, people know that us as a resource exists.
Do you have any stats available on workplace accidents?
I mean, and so this is also a philosophy that we take at Threads of Life. I mean, there's a multitude of stats that are out there. I mean, one stat that is often kind of referred to fairly on the regular is that, so if we look at Canada, on average, about 3 work-related deaths will happen every single day. So
really?
So when you stop and think about that, and I mean, the statistics might actually be a little bit higher than that, but that's a go-to stat, is that on an average working day in Canada, 3 work-related deaths will happen.
Wow.
And so, but our approach, whenever we're asked that question, I can appreciate, why people may want to what's give us a picture of how things are. What we tend to say is that really the one statistic that really matters for us is that 1 is one too many. Because the reality is that these should never have happened. These things should never happen. That all of these workplace tragedies fundamentally are 100% preventable. So that's why, again, it's we have family members who become volunteer speakers to go out there, share their story. We always tell them, because some, people will ask them, hey, do you have any stats to share? And we just equip them with, the only stat that's really, that you need to put out there is that 1 is one too many. But yeah, on average, 3 work-related deaths every single day in Canada, which is just crazy to think, right? So
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
How, do you have any tips or strategies or things that you try to get organizations to be aware of that they can help to reduce the numbers?
Yeah, I mean, as one can appreciate, there's no magic formula to all of this.
No, right.
And I mean, it's not to say that progress isn't being made. Progress is being made, but it takes a long time, especially when we're talking about influencing a cultural shift. And that's the key, It's like, again, it's not to diminish the value of regulations and policies and procedures and making sure that people are properly trained, using the proper PPE and all that type of stuff. That's all important. Don't get me wrong. It's all important, but it's behavioral. It's like, how do you bake it? How do you bake it into like into the cultural mindset of like, well, right, like that's what we should be doing, right? It's this idea that we need to view workplace safety in the same way as we now view wearing, like, always wear your seatbelt when you drive. Or you're going to go out drinking, go look at getting a designated driver. Don't get behind the wheel. Maybe call a cab, call a friend, whatever, right? It becomes ingrained in like cultural norm. To go back to your question, it's like, how do we get there? Well, a lot of it is being consistent and obviously encouraging the behavior, but organizations, when I think broadly, they can help by creating an environment where it's okay to put your hand up and ask a question if you're uncertain.
Right.
Even if you've done the job 1,000 times. The reality is that there are times where maybe you're working on something and maybe you're uncertain, or you're thinking like, I don't know if that's right, or I don't know if that's safe. But then it's like, if I put my hand up, am I going to get bullied? Is someone going to give me a hard time? Or if I do that, am I going to lose my job and they'll just put someone else in that position?
Right.
How do we unlearn that? How do we create an environment that discourages that type of behavior and makes it okay to kind of go, you know what, at the end of the day, it's not about a checklist, because sometimes, working safe and being compliant can feel like, okay, are we checking the boxes? But rather than looking at it from that lens, how do we kind of pivot to a place where it's like, hey, I'm just looking out for you. We're looking out for all of us, right? And so that way that at the end of the day, we're all going home. I would say that's probably again, it's not a magic bullet, but that's where it's like, if we can get there and foster that mindset, create that culture similar to like, hey, when I drive, seatbelt. When I'm at work, I'm going to be safe. That's how we can get to like reducing the stats and the numbers.
Right. Bringing it back to, we're all humans. We're all going home to our families.
100%.
There's no need to rush. You're open to ask questions. If you don't feel comfortable, pause.
I can appreciate, some people might say, oh, well, that's easier said than done. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy. I mean, if it was, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But I think it's, how do we get to a place where, I'm just looking out for you, right? Not giving you the gears. I want to make sure that you go home. I want to make sure you go home to your family. I want to make sure that, you can live a long life so that you can retire and do all the things that you want to do without fear of reprisal, without fear of like being bullied by your coworkers or feeling less than, because it's like, oh my God, what will people think? And unfortunately, like that is a stigma. That is the reality, right? And so the hope is that in the future that we'll look back on this period and kind of go, oh my God, like did that actually happen? Like people actually got chastised or bullied for putting their hand up and asking a question or refusing unsafe work. It's the hope is that in the future it's like, shouldn't you do that anyway? And it just becomes that's the accepted norm.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think you said that very, very well. So thank you for that. So I did want to ask, because you're talking about how Threads of Life, they do so much good and everything is for free. So I wanted to talk a bit about Steps for Life, because is that how you do fund your programs for people through Threads of Life, or is that totally separate?
Yeah, well, so Steps for Life, so just to touch on that, and especially for anyone that's listening that is unfamiliar. So Steps for Life, it is our premier annual fundraiser walk event. Presently, we're in 36 communities across Canada. We do have like an online option where if you don't have a walk nearby, or in your community, you can still participate, sign up online, and you can pick a weekend or a day during the week, whatever the case may be, in the month of May, and you can do your own walk. And really, it's an opportunity to bring the community together to raise awareness about the importance of workplace health and safety, and as well to raise funds that ultimately go back to fueling and funding the programs and services that we provide at Threads of Life. So to go back to your question, so Steps for Life is a big contributor to fundamentally ensuring that we can continue to offer those services at no cost to families. That's not our only source of funding, but it is one of the big contributors. We do have generous funders and donors that do give to the organization, and as well, we do accept individual donations and gifts from either members of our Threads of Life community or from the community at large. But yeah, the Steps for Life fundraiser event that we do on the annual is a big contributor.
What's the best way for someone to get involved with Threads of Life?
One way that people can get involved is through participating. Okay, so it could be participating at a Steps for Life walk. If you're an organization, business, company, you can host a Threads of Life speaker. So thinking about, maybe you're doing a safety refresher for your staff. You're thinking about reinforcing maybe certain safety protocols. You may approach it from the lens of, how do I make this feel real, rather than just, I'm going to remind you about a bunch of rules and regulations. Well, by inviting one of our volunteer speakers, hearing that personal story can help make it real for your staff, your audience. So that's a way of being involved is, help us with participation, involving people to help build that culture of safety. So that's one. Awareness. So this podcast, for example, that ladders right into it. So the more people that know about Threads of Life, the better. It's one of those things where we hope that a workplace tragedy doesn't happen to anyone. But if it does, it's important that they know that there's resources available, there's a community that understands, and that they're not alone. And so awareness could be, whether it's you're a podcast, you're offering an opportunity for us to talk about Threads of Life, that's fantastic. It could be as simple as following us on social media, sharing our posts. You never know who is in your network that could be suffering in silence and needs to hear that our support exists. Or simple word of mouth. So yeah, help us increase awareness. Volunteering. So I know we just finished talking about Steps for Life. So yes, you can attend. You can also volunteer at a Steps for Life walk. And so that can come in the form of maybe joining our planning committee, helping out on the walk day, or if you feel inclined, if you don't have a Steps for Life walk in your community, you may feel that, hey, I would like to start one in my community. So it's a really great way to help us with our mission of awareness, get involved, connect with the community, and it's also a fantastic way to network while doing something in service to a good cause. And then lastly, as we mentioned, because our services are free to families and workers, we really do rely on the generosity of corporate partners, individual donors, to keep the proverbial lights on. So help us increase our revenue. So it's fundraising, it's giving. We're able to do what we do because people are kind enough to be able to give and support our cause. So those are the four things: awareness, volunteering, participation, help us increase our revenue.
Excellent. That was very good. So where is the best place to find you, learn more about Threads of Life, maybe sign up for Steps for Life? What are all your links and your different things you like to promote?
Yeah, certainly. So best place to start really is our corporate website. So if you go to threadsoflife.ca, you can learn all about our programs and services. If you're interested in volunteering, you can sign up there. If you're interested in wanting to become a partner, maybe looking for additional resources, hey, if a workplace tragedy, God forbid, happens on, at your company, we have resources in terms of here's how you can respond. Here's some good FYI. So yeah, so threadsoflife.ca, good place to start. Follow us on social media. So we're very active on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. So type in Threads of Life, you'll find us there, and certainly follow us. As I mentioned about Steps for Life, if you want to register for the walk or get more information about the event, just go to stepsforlife.ca and you'll be able to register, learn more, look up a walk near you. You can do that all on that website. And then I guess lastly, I'm always happy to connect and chat with new people who want to work and collaborate together to keep our friends and families safe at work. So certainly for anyone that's listening, if you'd like to connect with me professionally, you can look me up on LinkedIn. It's Eugene Gutierrez. Gutierrez. I know that could be a tongue twister, but certainly send an invite. I'm happy to connect and chat. I think that's about it.
That's perfect. I'll put links to your website, to your LinkedIn,
perfect,
to your social media, just so that if people have a hard time finding it, they can just click the link
Absolutely.
in the show notes, and then I can connect to you. Amazing. Cool. Well, I appreciate your time. I think this was a fantastic way, just for me, for one, but I think for people listening to understand a bit more about what you do. I didn't know how much you did, and then how it's linked to the Steps for Life and all of the different things. So I think we could probably have a few episodes and dive in deeper, but that was a really good, that was a good overview and a good introduction, I think, for most people. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak a little bit about Threads of Life and the work that we do. It means a lot to us. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's very important. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.